Hello and welcome back to this new episode of the Let's Talk About It All podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Taveras. In this episode, we're going to be talking about my experience in the Pro Football Hall of Fame marathon and how did it go with some of the friends that I ran with. Before we talk about the marathon, I'd like to take a moment and thank each and every one of you that supported us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and taking us over the 1,000 subscriber mark. Also, I would like to correct something that I mentioned in the last episode, which turned out to be not exactly 100% true. I mentioned that the marathon distance of 26.2 miles comes from that Spartan warrior that ran from Marathon to Greece to deliver some news that is inaccurate. That soldier ran for 25 miles, which is about 40 kilometers. The actual marathon distance of 26.2 came much later during the Olympic Games in London. So London was the first one to implement the 26.2 distance for the marathon. Before then, the distance used to vary and change depending on who was running it and where. Here's a fun fact for you. The reason that it turned out to be 26.2 is because the Olympic Games wanted the marathon to finish right in front of the royal family's viewing box. After that, other events adopted that particular distance, and that's why the marathon is 26.2 or 42K. Welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw a montage of all of the pictures that my friends and I took in Ohio, showing you how the race went and all of that. If you're listening on the podcast version, on the audio only version of the show, I would suggest you head over to YouTube and check out the video so you can see those pictures. The Pro Football Hall of Fame marathon is held in Canton, Ohio. Why? Well, that's where the Football Hall of Fame is located. So the question is, why is it located in Canton? Well, in the 1950s, Canton, Ohio was selected as the location where the Pro Football Hall of Fame was going to be established because in 1920, that's where the National Football League was founded. And it was a way to honor the city's contribution into football. Unfortunately, the 2023 edition of the Hall of Fame Marathon is its last. From now on, they're gonna have a race series that's gonna start with a 5K, then it's gonna have a 10K, then it's gonna have a 6K, and then it's gonna have a half marathon. This race series, if you add all the distances, I believe it adds up to a marathon distance. And as I saw on the website, they're gonna have this very special race jacket for people who sign up for the entire challenge. It is going to be a little bit of a challenge for people outside of Canton to actually make it there and run all these dates because they're on all these races because they're on different dates. However, they do offer a virtual option and you can mix and match on in person and virtual. They are going to have a cap for the first 100 people to register for the races. The start and finish of the 2023 marathon was in downtown Canton, Ohio. Last year, it started right next to the actual Hall of Fame. And once you went around, it finished inside the stadium that's next to the Hall of Fame, which was really, really nice to finish there and get your medal there. As I mentioned before, this year they started in the heart of Canton, where they have I forget what they call it, but it's where they have that open space where they have the Canton sign. Once we started there, it basically took us on a tour of Canton. It took us into some of the nearby neighborhoods, and basically it was a 2-loop race. On the first loop, it took us through some of the neighborhoods there. Some of them were a little run down, a little sketchy. On the second loop, it took us into another section that was behind the Canton Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame. Those were like very nice houses. A fun thing that we did, because I'm in the process of looking for a house. As we were running through the neighborhoods, even the not so nice houses, we were looking at and try to estimate the pricing if those houses were placed here in New Jersey, where I live. That was actually fun, and I think it helped us. Like, it took our mind away from the actual race itself, and it just provided entertainment as we kind of went around and did the run. The course itself, it's relatively flat in the sense that you don't have to climb those big hills that you do in New York, for example. Those ramps to get on or off the highways, or go over the bridges. Canton is pretty flat. However, there are a lot of hidden hills. And what I mean by that is one of, it has a lot of those very gradual inclining hills that if you don't notice it, you keep running and you keep trying to match the same speed that you were doing when you were completely flat. Like, visually, you're trying to match that speed. And what this does to you is you end up spending a whole lot more energy than you anticipate. So at the end of the marathon, you're pretty beat up. You're pretty tired when you're done with this marathon. Another thing that we did during this marathon, we were doing intervals, and the ratio was 6-1 at the beginning. We were doing 6 minutes running, nice and easy, and then 1 minute walking. I thought that was a little too much for the running, especially since I haven't been training because of my ankle. And my friend Jillian, who was running with me, she's still running and getting her pace, finding her right pace for the marathon distance. What we did was we cut it down to 3-1. So we were running 3 minutes and then walking 1 minute. That was a little better. It provided a little more quick, a sooner rest. One thing that we have to deal with, and I forget what mileage we were in, but it started raining. I mean, pouring. It was coming down hard. And at that time, I remember my arms were starting to get like very cold. So 2 things we did. First, we cut down the interval 1-1. And what that did for us was it allowed us to run a little faster for that 1 minute, because we knew that rest was coming really quick. So it kept us moving at a faster rate, even though we're walking now half of the time. But that allows us to stay warm as we are running and spending energy. And another thing that I figure out, and I knew this from a while ago, but I kind of validated the strategy or the thing to do, is I took my thumbs and just kind of wrap them around like this. I'm trying to find the camera here. Which one is the right angle? Right here. So I just took my thumbs and did this, and make sure not to squeeze, but just kind of keep the thumbs wrapped, and that almost immediately warmed up my entire arms. The one thing I didn't like about this particular marathon is the fact that at around 5 hours 45 minutes, they actually maybe even a little sooner, like in 5 hours 30 minutes, the police decided to take down the course. They removed the barricades and basically instructed us to get on the sidewalk and finish on the sidewalk. Most marathons are gonna give you anywhere between 7 and 8 hours to finish. This was a little unusual because we didn't even get to the 6 hour mark and they took everything off. The problem wasn't that they took down the barricades and told us to get on the sidewalk. The problem was that there was no one left to direct us and tell us where to go and where to turn. So within 2 minutes, we're lost. This is mile 24 and a half ish. And now we're running all around Canton with no idea where to go. By the time we found mile 25, we were already well into mile 26 on the GPS. And my GPS was on point all race long, meaning every time we saw a mile marker, I checked the GPS and boom, we were right there. So I know that my GPS was still on point by the time we found mile 25, and the GPS was marking 26.8 or something like that. So we basically went to mile 25 and went around and managed to find the finish line and collected our medals. Which brings me to, look at this. That is the medal right there. It's a championship ring. Okay. And if you look closely, it has a stone for each one of the miles. Look at that. The stones are like all around the rings, and they have it right there in the front and all the sides, and they all add up to 26 stones, obviously for the 26 miles that we ran. Look at that. Beautiful. If you're watching on YouTube, you just saw that beautiful ring. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, I recommend that you check the video version so that you can see that beautiful ring. One really good thing about the marathon being in downtown Canton is the fact that once you finished, we walked literally 1 block, and they had tents with pizza and other snacks, beer, soda, water. And after you were done with that, you walk 1 more block and there's your car. They were able to provide parking, which was very, very nice. Last year, people had to be dropped off and then they had to walk, and it was a mess to find your way back to your car or your friend's car. This was a good thing. I hope that the new race series that they are going with from now on keeps people in Canton running, keeps people coming to Canton to do this race, and hopefully it keeps it revitalizes the demand for the marathon distance, and hopefully they bring it back maybe in a few years or so. It is not the biggest or the best organized marathon, but I tell you this, it's a fun trip, it's a fun marathon to do. So hopefully they bring it back. That is all for this episode of the Let's Talk About It All podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the links with your friends, share it on social media. That will help us grow the channel and keep bringing you these episodes. You can follow us on Instagram at Let's Talk About It.all. And for everything about the podcast, about the show, you can visit letstalkaboutitall.com. On that website, you can find all the videos, all the audios, all the links to the podcast platforms. And soon we're going to be implementing a blog section on the website that would allow us to publish, something very quick, maybe that doesn't warrant to create a whole episode about it, but it still allows us to share some information with you guys. Make sure to check that out. Finally, remember that destiny waits for no one. You have to go out there and make it happen. Thank you for watching and listening. See you in the next episode.